Well, next, I'd like to welcome to the stage Terence Kwok, founder and CEO of TinkLabs, and Casey Lau is going to be interviewing him from Startups Hong Kong. So Casey and Terence, thank you.
Hello, everybody. Just in case, no, I'm Casey and he's Terence, just in case. Terence, Handy, what is it? Let's just get into it.
So, TinkLabs is the name of the company, but the main product that we've developed is a smartphone we call Handy. It's a smartphone device, not an app, and essentially it services the hospitality industry. The Handy smartphones that we develop are currently in around half of all the hotel rooms in Hong Kong.
Okay.
It's also in a bunch of different cities: Singapore, London, Istanbul, Paris, etc. And essentially, a guest can check into a hotel, see one of our phones sitting there, use it for information, use it to make free phone calls, free internet, take it with them anywhere in the city, and essentially serve as a mobile city guide. The business model is quite simple. We charge hotels a subscription fee for the service, and we also generate revenues from advertising and from mobile commerce.
Okay, great. So I have a phone, and I think everybody has a phone in the audience. How do you compete with the fact that we all have phones already? Why would I use a Handy phone when I go to another hotel?
So the cities that we generally pick to deploy the service are
the ones with the most expensive roaming charges.
Ones with the most expensive roaming charges, ones where there's a high base of international tourists. Okay. Ones with a high base of international tourists. So that's why we would pick places like Hong Kong, Singapore, rather than cities like Beijing or New York, where you have a fair number of domestic tourists. And for these cities, what we tend to do is we provide very up-to-date content. We have our own editorial team, push out new stuff for the guest every single day. And on top of that, the device essentially provides the guest with free local calls, free international calls, free internet, and some pretty convenient services, right? So you can take it anywhere. You dial 0, you would reach the hotel operator would know you're Casey Lau.
Okay, so the concept is like it's a phone in the room, it's used as a hotel phone, but I can also take it outside with me and use it as a phone in the city I'm in Hong Kong. Yeah. Okay, that sounds pretty interesting. And so you have said you're about 50% of the rooms in Hong Kong right now. What kind of hotels are you in? Are you in like the Grand Hyatt and Four Seasons, or are you in the Kowloon hotels? Like, who are you servicing with this device?
So we're in, we're in both the Kowloon Hotel and the Grand Hyatt. So a range of different star levels, right? So generally, for any given city, what we try to do is we want to deploy this thing into as many 3, 4, 5-star hotel rooms as possible. The concept originated because we think travelers are very valuable. For a city like Hong Kong, the travelers would generally make up around 40% of the retail spend for an entire city. And in certain sectors, it's higher than that. And the idea is that by deploying these devices, capturing a high usage engagement rate in all of these hotel rooms, then we would essentially be able to reach all these tourists in a very cost-effective way. So for us, that's why we don't really discriminate. 3-star hotel rooms, 5-star hotel rooms, we take all of that. And so we work with, as you mentioned, guys like the Grand Hyatt or the Intercontinental, and then we work with 3, 4-star hotels like the Butterfly or the Cosmopolitan. So a little bit of everything.
So I've read that you've raised about $45 million US to date, and some of it, 13 million of it, is from Foxconn. What is the appeal to investors about Handy?
What is the appeal for Foxconn, or what is the general appeal?
Well, I think we know why Foxconn's interested in it, right? Basically, they give you the money and then you give it back to them to make the handsets.
So
right?
yeah, so that's a very interesting deal that we structured with them. Essentially, the deal was done part cash and part in kind, because we needed to purchase a lot of phones. We just bought around 120,000 phones.
These are not like pre-made phones. These are like Handy specifically designed phones.
They're Handy specifically designed phones because the entire system is based off of Android, but we wrote our own ROM, and essentially had to do a lot of customization with the manufacturers. So we went to Foxconn. For them, it didn't really make a lot of sense to manufacture phones for us because they were doing a couple $100 million for Apple,
Sure.
and for all the other guys. But it made sense for them to come in as a partner, as an investor, and that's kind of.
And so who are the other investors, and how do they leverage, or what do their appeal to you, and what do they see in Handy going forward?
I think the idea is that I think one of the guys was talking about unit economics, and the unit economics of what we're trying to do makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
The idea is, as I said, for us, sticking a device into a hotel room, for a city like Hong Kong, we see around, let's say, 80% usage rates. And these are people that, for example, staying in the Grand Hyatt would probably not come across an ad on TVB or on Apple Daily or South China Morning Post. Yep. But we work with advertising clients like HSBC, Chow Tai Fook, Louis Vuitton, all the big brands that are in retail and would want to be reaching this clientele. So from an advertising business perspective, it makes a lot of sense. The commerce side of things also makes sense, right? We integrate, we're now starting a pilot to integrate with some hotels, and what we're able to do is allow people to buy things on the device and charge it to the hotel room.
Okay.
So you could potentially buy a Disneyland ticket when you're staying in a hotel, have it charged to the hotel room. You don't even need to line up or pay. We'll give you a discount, and then you can just take the device and walk into to the theme park.
Does it work at Choi Hua?
Unfortunately not.
Okay, hopefully you guys will build that in, because that's great. I upgrade my phone every year. All right, every year there's a new iPhone, I got the new one. So how long does a Handy phone last for? How's the hardware cycle on these things?
I think phones now are essentially commodities, right?
Yeah.
The phone you have.
Except iPhone. It's awesome.
The next one's probably gonna look pretty similar.
Probably.
But so for us, on our books we depreciate devices for 2 years.
Okay.
Sometimes, on average, it's 2 years. Let's put it that way.
All right. Let's talk about international expansion. What are some of the lessons, maybe some of the startups, what are some of the lessons that you learned expanding into new markets like the United Kingdom?
So I think, different markets have their fair share of nuances, especially when we're looking at a business like Handy where there's a device importation component.
Yes.
And a telecommunication component. So there are different regulations that we have to abide to. So there's random stuff, right? Like, for example, we've realized that, you have to register every single smartphone device that you import into Turkey. Because of terrorism and whatnot.
Yes.
Right? And then so essentially, we have all of these things, and then, labor laws and
Sure.
et cetera, et cetera. It's.
Are these expensive lessons, or are they things that can be overcome by talking to people?
So I think I would say they're expensive lessons, but
Okay.
Generally, if you.
That's what we want to hear. So what happens when the hotels give out free SIM cards, or Google blankets Hong Kong with free Wi-Fi? What happens to Handy then? Tough question.
What happens when hotels give out free SIM cards, or Google gives out free...
with data and everything on it, so I can just swap out my card.
As I said, the interesting thing is for us, I think, for any given service, the usage is not going to be 100%. Not 100% of people came here with Uber or whatever service that you see. But, as I said, the unit economics for us, from an advertising perspective and from a commerce perspective, makes a lot of sense. Given the fact that, Hong Kong, let's say, is roughly a $4 to $5 billion US advertising market. 40% of retail is driven by travelers. Practically none of that $4 to $5 billion US is being spent on travelers. There's quite a fair bit of growth there. And from connectivity perspective, I think we're looking at different things, right? The phone is probably only the first iteration. We're looking at potentially having a lot of the services that we already have built onto the device, transform that potentially into an app type of format, or even look at sticking tablets. So for us, I think the most important thing is owning that relationship with the hotel, because that 50,000 rooms in Hong Kong essentially represent all the tourists that are staying here. And to be honest, the reason, even if we go into an app model or whatever type of model in the future, it's important for us to have that device component, because if you look at number of companies that are selling apps and services to different enterprises, there are a lot. For a hotel or for any business, you're not going to stick more than one handy smartphone in the hotel room.
Sure.
So it's important for us to have that branding and to establish that footprint.
Okay, just closing this out because we're in a rush here. You made the Forbes 30 under 30 list. Why do you think you were picked?
I don't know.
You don't know?
I have no idea.
Okay, one more question then. You guys are pretty heads down at Handy. I don't see you a lot of events. It's the first time I met you today. What do you think of the Hong Kong ecosystem in the last few years since you've been operating in it?
What do I think about the Hong Kong
Startup ecosystem.
Startup ecosystem. Okay. I think it's growing. I definitely think it's growing. I think, it's the government rolling out the board for innovation. I think that's a good step. I think, guys like Alibaba setting up a fund here, MIT doing something here. I think, all of this certainly contributes. I think we're still a little bit behind a couple other cities. Singapore, I think, is slightly ahead of us. I think even Taiwan might be a little bit ahead of us. But I think, we're definitely heading in the right direction.
Great. All right, thank you very much, Terence. Thank you.
Great. I can say that one of the reasons he was nominated for the Forbes 30 under 30 is because of that venture capital raise that from Foxconn. That's pretty impressive, along with their technology and their team. And I think Terence shows that he's got the passion to succeed. So those are some of the factors.